What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. I am recovering from a cold myself that I've been weathering all week. If anybody watched our Godzilla review that we posted yesterday, you may have noticed that I was sniffling most of the way through. And no, I wasn't crying. I actually have been kind of sick. So, that being said, it didn't stop me from wanting to come on and just hop on here and talk about a movie that I picked up this week that I'm super excited to own, finally. And that is 1988's Christopher Kane film, Young Guns. I was super excited when this was announced. You know, when I think about mid to late 80s, when you think of westerns, there really weren't too many films that were out there. I mean, Pale Rider comes to mind, Silverado with Kevin Costner. But the one that's most memorable to me is Young Guns. Now, I don't remember when I first saw this movie. I'd say it's probably had to be, I don't know, mid to late 2000s. So obviously years and years after it was released. When I was getting into films of that era, late 80s, early 90s, you know, Dances with Wolves, Tombstone, you know, Maverick, all those kind of films. Young Guns was what stood out to me because I really was blown away by how stacked the cast was. I mean, Emilio Estevez, Lou Diamond Phillips, Kiefer Sutherland, just to name a few. I think Emilio Estevez, his performance in this movie is super underrated. He plays Billy the Kid, and essentially what happens is he's part of this gang of young men who they kind of get taken in by this rancher. The rancher gets murdered, and they pretty much try to avenge his death, but they're essentially made out to be deputies because the sheriff is kind of bought and paid for by this rival rancher, from what I remember, and essentially they're made into deputies, and rather than arrest the murderers of the rancher, they just shoot them and become outlaws. Now, I don't know much about the actual story of Billy the Kid, but what I have heard from other reviews and other sources is that this movie, surprisingly, is one of the most accurate interpretations of the, you know, Billy the Kid mythos, so to speak. So I was super interested to hear that was the case. But I had to grab this Steelbook. Such an awesome Steelbook. I should say that this movie is significant in a few ways. The physical media release is somewhat significant because it's the 35th anniversary of this movie. And this is a Lionsgate Steel. So you have the Lionsgate slipcover, which is amazing. You know, what they did with this. Look at the back there. Look how cool that is. And then you got the front with Emilio's character on there. But what's significant about this movie is I'm pretty sure it was one of the first few projects of Mill Creek Entertainment back in the late 80s. So that marks a significant, I guess you could say, chapter, you know, in Mill Creek's history. The fact that this was one of the first movies that they put out. So that's cool. But as far as the movie itself, really fun movie. You know, really well done action scenes. I mean, the camaraderie between the characters, Emilio and the whole gang, they really play well off of each other, especially him and Kiefer. I love watching both of them together, man. Two of my favorite actors of that era. And Lou Diamond Phillips is great as well, and the rest of the cast. But to have them all kind of in there, it's just, I love these kind of movies growing up as a kid, because it was like you have all your favorite actors kind of coming together with a cast like this that's so stacked. It's bound to be a good time, and it was. So, regarding the 4K transfer, the movie's probably the best it's ever going to look. I really enjoyed this transfer. I believe it has Dolby Vision as well as HDR. I didn't watch it on my OLED. I watched it on my other TV, so I watched it with, I'm assuming, standard HDR, but I'm excited to check it out again with the Dolby Vision. It does have an Atmos mix as well as the original sound mix, which I think was 2.0. I'd have to double check, but it sounded great. The only thing that was a little iffy is the opening credit sequence, which when you guys watch this, or if you watch this, you'll know what I'm talking about. That opening credit sequence was very heavily processed, digitally processed, so to speak. So it looks a little weird in 4K, you know, on a 4K TV. But when you watch it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But other than that, this movie looks phenomenal. But it's just a fun time. You know, I don't think this movie gets enough credit because it really kind of ushered in, if you think about it, not including movies like Pale Rider and Silverado and some of those other ones I mentioned. This came out in 1988, and we didn't really get films like Tombstone, and films of like the 90s, I would say the 90s westerns, Dances with Wolves, Tombstone, The Quick and the Dead. I'm not sure if that was 90s or late 80s, but it was really this movie that kind of kick-started that whole movement, if you think about it. Kind of ushered in almost like a new era, so to speak, of westerns. And that's one of the first things I think people might think of when they watch this. They'll say, well, this is kind of like Tombstone, except you don't realize when you're watching it that this was 1988, and I think Tombstone was, like 5 years later. I think it was 1993 when Tombstone came out. So this movie's pretty original. It's probably one of the best, in terms of like a group cast, like a big all-star cast. It's probably one of the best movies of the 80s, or I should say at least the late 80s, and definitely one of the best westerns of the 80s, which again, are few and far between at that point. So definitely pick this up if you guys are interested, but I want to do a quick kind of unboxing here as well. It's already open, but just to show you guys what we're looking at. I showed you the slipcover a little earlier, so we take that off, and that's the cool thing about these Lionsgate slipcovers, man. They are really doing such a great job. Look at the back, dude. Such a cool design. Awesome artwork. And my favorite thing about this is when we open it up, I'll show you guys the discs, and then we take the discs out, and then you got the background there. You just pretty much just like the Western frontier, just a typical, I guess you could say, a Western backdrop. But the coolest thing about this is the lobby cards. You don't get this too often with releases these days, I feel like. So anytime that we do, I gotta shout it out. I mean, look at that, dude. Really cool. Making sure you guys can see all that. Awesome lobby cards of the gang there. There's Emilio as it's just kind of funny they have him as the Joker card. Super cool. So I think this is like $23 at Best Buy, and it actually got lost on me before. But one of the other things I was going to say, what's significant about this release is that it's probably one of the last Steelbooks we're going to get from Best Buy. I'm trying to think of what else is being released. Mandalorian comes out next week, but other than that, and other than the Marvel seals, like WandaVision and Loki, I don't really think that we're getting anything else from Best Buy. So unless you guys picked up the Point Break Steelbook and those others that I mentioned, this is probably one of the last Best Buy Steelbooks we're going to get. So, if you care about that kind of thing, it's significant in that aspect in terms of, a Best Buy release. It's the last one, or one of the last ones we're going to have. So, whether that matters or not, it's, entirely up to, you guys. But yeah, check it out, and definitely pick this up for $23. It's not bad. Lionsgate killing it. Killing it. They've been killing it for a while now. Their Steelbooks are awesome, but this is one of the last releases of the year, and it's a really cool one. And the movie itself, like I said, super fun movie, so definitely check that out if you guys have a chance. I highly recommend this movie. It is a really good time. So yeah, just wanted to hop on real quick and talk about it. We're going to be posting a lot more of these kind of reviews and unboxings, so to speak, so stay tuned. And most importantly, if you like what we're offering, if you like the discussions we're having, some of the longer form videos, if that's what you guys are interested in, and if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, definitely like, definitely subscribe. And if you guys have opinions or thoughts or feedback, comment down below. We are super appreciative of all the feedback that we've gotten so far from family, friends, and just people that are checking us out on YouTube. So, definitely comment on our videos and let us know what you guys think. We appreciate all the feedback. But with that being said, I'm going to sign off and go watch more movies. I will see you guys soon. Later.